Welcome, everybody, to the fourth episode of the Word Around the Ring podcast. Today, we'll be covering this week's Monday Night Raw and Tuesday night's NXT for our Midweek Madness recap episode. My name is Big Rob, and I'll let my tag team partner introduce himself.
You can call me King Jess, and we're the only podcast to take more tsunamis than The Miz. Why don't we just get straight into it, and let's start off with our first segment, Spot Monkeys. I know you have some stuff you want to talk about, and then I have two matches I want to address.
Definitely. I have some unfortunate news to bring our listeners today. Earlier this week, we found out on Monday Night Raw that Damage Control Zone Dakota Kai was out with an injury. During the match, Michael Cole then informed us that Dakota Kai recently suffered a torn meniscus and will once again undergo knee surgery to repair it. She's expected to be out for 8 to 10 weeks, so we're wishing her a speedy recovery. That sucked that we're going to see her off TV for a while. I know they were going to give her a little push there. She was supposed to take on Sonya Deville last week, but that match was canceled. And then we found out that she had suffered this injury. So wishing her a speedy recovery and hope to see her back in the ring soon.
And I got a chance to watch the first two matches that Anna Jay was in the 5-star GP tournament over in Stardom. Her first one was against former Wonder of Stardom champion Shiori Uno on August 10th, and then she suffered her first loss on August 12th at the hands of the Starlight Kid. I thought both of these matches were phenomenal. If you enjoy female Japanese wrestling, these two ladies definitely put on the show with Anna, and I'm glad to see that Anna got to show out some of her skills, being from the West, going over to Japan. Their styles are very different, but she did really good in the ring, so I was proud of her.
Fantastic. I definitely have to watch those matches myself. Anything with Anna on screen, I'm a big fan of, so we'll have to check that out when I get the time. Let's just jump right into this week's recap. We have a few segments to talk about in regards to Monday Night Raw, which took place in the great city of Austin, Texas. The show opened up with Rhea Ripley cutting a promo on Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, in the new Judgment Day, or so they call themselves. I thought this promo was all right, nothing too extravagant here. They're continuing to build their feud with Dominic and Liv Morgan. But the funniest part of this promo here to me was when Rhea was speaking about how Dominic had stabbed her in the back. She said, Dominic, I know you stabbed me in the back, and this is something you probably heard before, but it just wasn't deep enough. The crowd popped for that little note there. Liv laughed at that, if I'm not mistaken, and I just listening to that, I was like, wow, that's not PG. So that was hilarious to me, and we'll see if they continue to take these little shots at each other once we get to Netflix and the freedom that they'll have there. No, it probably won't. It probably won't be cussing on live television when they do get there, but just seeing them have a little bit more freedom, taking these little inappropriate jabs at each other was pretty hilarious to me. But this was a good little promo exchange between Liv Morgan, Dom Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley. Liv and Dom actually showed up to interrupt Rhea's promo, but they were in the crowd, of course, hiding from Rhea. They usually don't like to confront her. They want to have the upper hand at all times. They had a little exchange for about 6 to 8 minutes there until Damian Priest actually surprised Liv and Dominic Mysterio by showing up behind them, sort of like that Undertaker and AJ Styles meme that we have seen on the internet. And then they started chasing each other around the arena, and they actually took Dom back into the ring, where Rhea was going to hit a riptide on Dominic Mysterio, but Liv saved the day as he saved her last week when Rhea was going to hit that power bomb on the announce table. How did you feel about this segment here? We also found out later on in the night that we're going to get a mixed tag match at Bash in Berlin between these couples of competitors here. We're going to see Rhea and Damian Priest versus Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. How did you feel about that match announcement and how it fits into the card at Bash in Berlin and just the overall promo that we had from Rhea?
I gotta look really well at the card for Bash of Berlin because I'm not sure how it's stacking up compared to other pay-per-views. So I wouldn't know where this would fall technically. And inside of Bash of Berlin, I kind of feel like it might be one of those filler matches, even though it does seem like a good match. It does have a lot writing to it because we have this whole Terror Twins versus the Judgment Day arc. But this segment was great. I thought it was hilarious when Dom talked about how Liv buys him nuggies. He actually said nuggies, and I think that was funny. I think it actually got kind of a pop. But this man's not going to be able to speak for weeks. I mean, he's got all this heel heat on him. He had it before, but now it's even worse. Now that he's part of the new Judgment Day and he's with Liv. But this segment was fun. I felt like Damien appearing was fun. Kind of gave me old Taker vibes with him just showing up like that. So I'm kind of excited for this match, even though it'll be one of the more up in the air matches as opposed to like importance on the card. But I thought the segment was good.
Yeah, how could I forget the famous Dominic quote that he said in response to Rhea? I believe the quote was uh sh- Dom had told Rhea, "I'm a man and I deserve to be treated like one. You try to change me instead of letting me be. You know how embarrassing it was, a grown man making me call you mommy. Now I got a girl who calls me daddy.
Ew.
She gives me tendies whenever I want, and she lets me play video games whenever I want." Thought that was hilarious. Dom knows how to play this heel character very well.
He
He's just
does.
a natural at it. If and I know we had discussed it on the side. He actually had an episode on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast, which I thought was very funny. And you just really get to see how he takes that character outside of the ring and he wears it well on a daily basis. So shout out to Dom. I think he's really enjoying playing this heel. He's been enjoying it since he turned on his father. Even those segments that we saw, like for Thanksgiving dinner when Rhea and Dom showed up to the house and Ray's wife, Dom's mother, had called the cops and had him arrested. And ever since then, he had the joke about him going to the penitentiary. But just like little things like that, I've enjoyed from Dom, and I think he continues to play this character very well. In terms of the match, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, the Terror Twins versus Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. I mean, on paper, it's a pretty easy match to call, right? I would assume that Rhea and Damien are just gonna mollywop the dog shit out of both of these individuals there. But we'll have to wait and see. We definitely know the Judgment Day is gonna play a huge role in that match at Bash in Berlin. We're gonna hopefully see Ben Balor interject himself in the match and cost Damien and Rhea the match. I would assume. And
They
moving
might.
forward from yeah. What are your thoughts on the Judgment Day there and playing a role in that match?
No, they might. I mean, we've seen previous run-ins the past couple shows where Finn Balor either comes to jump or tries to jump Priest or someone else gets jumped in return. But it's more than likely that this match will end up in fuckery.
Yeah, 100%. And then so after this segment here, we directly go into the first match of the night, which was Damian Priest and Carlito. Nothing too extravagant happened in this match per se. But I think the biggest conclusion of this match was the actual finish when Damian had beat Carlito with his South of Heaven. The referee had raised Damian's hand in victory, and that's when, of course, JD McDonough came from behind. Then Finn Balor and Dom joined in on beating Damian, and that's when Rhea's music actually hit again. Hilariously, Carlito tries to get in Rhea's way, but she kicks him dead in the nuts, knocking him on the floor. And that's when Dom and JD actually got out of the ring, but Finn was stuck in between Rhea and Damian Priest, very similar to what happened to JD on last week's episode of Monday Night Raw. And then while Finn got knocked out, no, Finn was about to get hit with a kick, but JD actually saved him by pushing him out the way. So JD got hit with the South of Heaven. And then Rhea and Damien celebrated by hugging each other in the middle of the ring. And then we see Dom climb up to the top of the rope while they were hugging. I think he was going to go for like an elbow drop, but I give Priest a lot of credit here. He did have a sick moment in this little exchange. When Dom jumped to hit the elbow drop on both of these individuals, Damien caught him in the air with one arm. He was going to hit him with a choke slam, if I'm not mistaken. But that's when Liv actually saved him. What I didn't like about this ending was that they're making the Judgment Day look a little weak to me. which I don't appreciate because I think they should be the ones that have the upper hand as the heels in this feud here. How do you feel about that comment there?
About the Judgment Day looking weak. I would
Yeah,
have. It's tough. I don't know if we're really looking at them weak. At least I'm not. I expect that they're gonna take some minor losses here and there, not necessarily in the ring like this. Like every week, someone's getting jumped. That's a minor loss. I feel like that's just building them up so that when they finally do overcome the Terror Twins, because they're gonna have to win at least one of these goes. Once they get that win, it's gonna mean a lot more because they have been losing. So I think that it's fine that they're losing right now. These, like I said, these small battles, but yes, ultimately, I think that the Terror Twins are gonna be winning this feud, so they at the end of the day need to be made look strong as well.
definitely. So then, if you're the booker here, do you book the Terror Twins to beat Dom and Liv at Bash in Berlin?
No, like I said, I think this match ends in fuckery. I think maybe the Terror Twins are just about to win, and Finn doesn't want them to suffer a loss, so they pull them out. Technically, I guess losing because of disqualification, but it saves them from a pinfall or submission victory.
Okay. No, that makes a ton of sense. I would have to agree with you there. I think Liv and Dom somehow sneak their way into a victory there, causing Damien and Rhea to get upset, and then furthering the feud, maybe even pushing them towards Bad Blood. We'll probably get the Damien and Finn match there, just being that we're not getting it at Bash in Berlin. But it should be a fun match. We do got to remember though, Rhea did lose at SummerSlam. Damian Priest also lost at Summer. Maybe they do take the victory at Bash in Berlin. And then after the match, we get Finn Balor just coming out and going on a rampage there. But we'll have to wait and see
Well, I mean,
for
even
that.
even Kevin Owens has brought it out. Like, are we really following rules? Like, it feels like everyone, win or lose, you can just, claim stake to here or there. So, like, do winning and losing really matter as much as it did before? Because it kind of doesn't seem like it anymore. It kind of just seems like if you got a good purpose and they're willing to give you a shot, then that's where we go. So, yeah, I
No,
don't know.
that's a fair point.
I don't know
That's
if
a fair
wins or
point.
losses really matter. I don't think, if they keep losing, it'll matter or whatever. But I think if the storytelling is right, and at the end of the day, the story ends in the way that they wanted, I don't see us
Definitely.
taking wins and losses as serious anymore.
No, that's a fair point. And I think the biggest pop that we'll get out of this feud here is when Rhea Ripley finally hits the riptide on Dominic Mysterio and getting her revenge for Dom, beating on her and two-timing her with Liv Morgan there. But overall, I thought it was a solid segment for the Judgment Day and the Terror Twins. I look forward to that match in a few weeks. Moving forward, I want to talk a little bit about your favorite faction, the Final Testament. We hilariously get a match between Odyssey Jones and some individual named Vincent Winey. Now, I have to ask you this. Do you know who Vincent Winey is?
I do not.
I did not know either. But when I saw this guy come out, I don't even think he got an entrance. So Odyssey Jones we came back from commercial break. Vincent Winey was already in the fucking in the ring. And Odyssey Jones had came out and he had his entrance. He was accompanied by none other than Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. Before the match, though, Kofi had told Xavier Woods that they were going to accompany Odyssey, and Xavier Woods didn't look too ecstatic about it. He was a little upset. We're sort of like we said last week. We're seeing some hints of Xavier Woods getting a little restless, being confused, and maybe feeling some type of way about Kofi interjecting this new individual into the New Day. Maybe he feels like they're trying to get rid of Biggie, and we know how much Xavier Woods loves Biggie, so that might play a role into this. But we have this match with Odyssey Jones and Vincent Winey. Match goes relatively short. Odyssey Jones just was a powerhouse in this. He was probably like 5-6 times his size, and just absolutely whips his ass in about like 3 minutes. He wins with a spinning sidewalk slam. That was his finisher. I don't think they gave it a name yet, so we'll have to wait and see if that's his official finisher. That's the move that won him the match. Once the match was over, Kofi signaled to Xavier Woods to get into the ring and celebrate with their new friend. Kofi and Odyssey are jumping around in celebration, and Xavier Woods is just standing in the corner. That's when none other than your favorite wrestler, Karrion Kross, walks out with the final testament. And that's when, that is when, forgetting his name. Why am I drawing a blank? That is when Karrion Kross has a mic and he tells Xavier Woods, we could see Kofi Kingston is just using Odyssey Jones to replace Big E, but the truth is Kofi is using Odyssey to replace you, Xavier. And that's when Xavier Woods grabs the mic and tells Karrion that they were going to have a tag match next week. You pick two of your guys, but Kofi then interjected himself and tells Karrion Kross, nah, why don't we just have a 6-man tag match since you're going to interfere anyways? Kofi then hilariously tells Karrion Kross, next week it's going to be the final testicle and then testament. And Karrion was actually a little pissed at this comment. As the camera panned back to him, Karrion was just like actually upset. He was looking into the camera and was mumbling words like, oh, you're gonna call us the final testicle, huh? You think that's funny? And I thought that shit was hilarious coming from Kofi Kingston. But I could see like the frustration and anger in Karrion Kross's face there. How do you feel about getting another match between the New Day, the New Day, and the final testicle?
Listen, I asked for them to make it interesting, and I think they've made it interesting enough for me to actually care this time around. It sucks for Karrion Kross because I know that he's a good wrestler, but it just I can't even defend him. I can't. People say that he's shit, and I can't even be like, well, because what he's presented to WWE is kind of shit. So I feel bad on that end. But Jones looked impressive in this. He's another big boy that reminds me a lot of like an agile Mark Henry. So I'm impressed by that in the ring. Um, Xavier was pissed. Like you could totally tell. Like I noticed the tension this week. You could tell that he's finally had enough of this shit. And I don't know if we're gonna be seeing a good guy Xavier for a lot longer, because he was so mad I could see him popping blood vessels, dude. He was not happy with this whole Odyssey Jones hype. And then having Kofi bring him into 6-man, I think that's gonna be the straw that broke the camel's back. Maybe we see him, turn on Kofi next week, or maybe we push it to something like Bash or the pay-per-view after. But this is definitely coming to an end, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what happens next week. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they made it interesting in terms of finding out what's going to happen with Xavier Woods. Not because of the final testament. I can give a fuck about the final testament. But we're invested now because we want to see if Xavier Woods is going to turn on Kofi Kingston and Odyssey Jones. I could definitely see it happening. Not next week. I think there's a few more straws that need to break in order for him to turn. Okay. Now, do you want, when he does turn on Kofi, do you want him to join the final testament, or do you want him just to be, be a heel on his own? That is where I'm at a question with. I would like to see him just go heel on his own. I don't want to see him join the final testament. I don't think they're going to do anything for him, and I don't think he could do anything for them. And that group already has 5 people that they don't know what to do with. But yeah, well, how would you book that? What would you do if you're Triple H and you're Xavier Woods? Do you want him to be his own heel there, go on a rampage, maybe destroying Odyssey Jones, maybe destroying Kofi Kingston, and ultimately that leading to a return from Big E to tell him you need to get your shit together. This is not like you. What if that's what's happening backstage and we're gonna get that? I'm dreaming here. This is me dreaming. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that puts it in like 2 perspectives for me, right? One of them, we just go ahead and we break up the New Day. Xavier goes heel, maybe even attacks Karrion Kross to like further the heelness, like he's gonna accept Karrion's offer, but then just attacks him just to further this like I'm going bad type gimmick, and then we get a full Xavier heel run. Or the way that I kind of would book it, just because it's something you just mentioned, you have 5 people in that group that they don't know what to do with. Xavier is good at putting himself in situations that kind of drive this excitement within the crowd. So if you kind of put him for at least a little bit with the Final Testament, you can gain them a little bit more notoriety, get them a little bit more screen time, and maybe produce something good. Inevitably, I would love to see him turn on Cross if they go that route, but I think those are the two avenues that I see this going in. I just don't know which one I want to see more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I just hope that this is leading to, and this is once again, I said me dreaming, you know, Xavier Woods turning on his original friend Kofi Kingston, beating on Odyssey Jones, and then that forcing Big E to finally get back in the ring and sort of put Xavier Woods in his place and remind him who he is. That would be cool to see on television. I know that's just me fantasy booking that thing. Probably won't happen. All in all, I am excited to see how Xavier Woods ends up, how he ends up turning if he does turn, and where that leads to. Like you said, he has a few options here. What I don't want though, I'm on the road where I don't want to see him join the Final Testament. I don't want him to put on no black vests. Don't need him in no black tights and jeans. I just don't think that's his look. But I can definitely see him being taken seriously as a heel, and he has the in ring abilities to go on his own, as we've seen him win the King of the Ring tournament in years prior. So he definitely has that momentum going for him, and he's loved by the fans. Him and Kofi Kingston are loved by the fans. The New Day is one of the most popular factions when it comes to the WWE. Just one of the more popular tag teams of all time. But we'll see how this will play out, and maybe God willing, maybe we get a return from Big E, the Ring there.
It's just tough because you don't know his status. You know, we don't know if he's going to return or not. So that, like you said, it's a wish, a wishful thought, but we have to kind of see the picture and with the rules that he's not coming back, you know, with the stipulation that he's not going to be here. So we have to kind of move it on. And it is kind of hard to break the New Day up because they are so fucking popular. But eventually it's going to have to happen. And I don't know. I feel like this is like the best moment they could do it because they do have someone out that, like I said, we don't know when they'll return. Because if you do it on later on down the road, it's going to have to be this massive story. And right now you kind of can just quietly put that damper on it.
No, 100%. We'll have to wait and see. I think this is one of the more interesting feuds that is now happening in terms of Xavier Woods. No credit to Final Testament on my, but it is interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Into Monday Night Raw next week to see how that 6-man tag match plays. Speaking of another tag match that I thoroughly enjoyed this week, which was our, I believe it was our third match of the night, Alpha Academy versus American Made. This was a fun one. Really did enjoy this one. Texas crowd was loving Otis. But what was funny and what was sick to me was during Alpha Academy's walkout to the ring, Obafemi, the NXT North American champion, was actually sitting ringside. And so Otis was making his way down the ramp. And they made it a point to have Otis and Oba have a stare down, which led to Otis accepting Obafemi's open challenge for his NXT North American Championship the following night on Tuesday Night NXT, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But I thought that was a fun way to accept and introduce that challenge for Otis there. But to start the match here, American Made had, and no pun intended, had made an effort to take Tozawa out early and send him out of the ring while they focused their efforts on beating on Otis. The Texas crowd was absolutely loving Otis throughout this entire match. The Creed brothers were able to whip Otis into the corner and continue to rain down elbows on him. Otis was able to fight back and punches both men out of the way. Tozawa then jumped on both men from the top of the turnbuckle, and Otis actually used Tozawa as a battery ram to hit American Made. He then picked up Tozawa and threw him into Brutus and Julius, who were on the outside of the ring, and then we go into the commercial break. We come back from commercial break, and American Made is absolutely dominating Alpha Academy. They sent Otis into a barricade with a double power bomb, and then they turned their attention to the smaller Tozawa. Tozawa was then able to hit the Creed brothers with a double DDT, buying Otis time. That helped him get back into the ring, and now he's angry, and he starts to jiggle and vibrate, and he hits a double tackle into double clotheslines on Julius and Brutus. Otis then hit a caterpillar on Julius Creed, which is his famous patented signature move. He goes for the pin, but Brutus interrupts the pin. Otis is then on a rampage at this point, and he's going crazy on American Made. But they're able to get their legs under them and drop Otis with double leg kicks, followed by a 450 moonsault by each of them on Otis. Tozawa tries to save Otis, and American Made takes Tozawa to the top rope for a power bomb, but he reversed it into a Hurricane Rana. Tozawa was doing great this match, I thought, being that he was just like absolutely the smallest wrestler in the ring when it came to Brutus and Julius. He was holding his own, so I did enjoy that, and I love to see that on Tozawa's end. But moving forward, Julius then picked up Otis on his shoulders. Otis is holding Brutus, and Otis hits a superplex while Julius hits a backdrop on Otis. This was a crazy spot. Then Tozawa hits a frog splash on Julius Creed, and the crowd started to chant "Holy shit!" And then that's when the camera pans to Maxine Dupree yelling in the corner, telling him to get up. And then we see Ivy now, who has been talking with American Made and Chad Gable, and she used to be really good friends with American Alpha as well. But we see her attack Maxine Dupree, and she hit Maxine face first into the announce table and locks in a dragon sleeper hold on Maxine on the announce table. And this served as the distraction that American Made needed to win the match. I thought this was a really fun match between these two teams. Otis and Tozawa held their own for the most part. Otis is always going to be a fun one, a fun wrestler for the crowds to get hype at, especially like a Southern crowd. Just an absolute monster and meat of a man. So always fun to see him on television. And I thought that submission hold that Ivy now had Maxine in on the announce table was just nasty looking. And it looked like she could have really broken her neck. So I thought they did a great job of now introducing Ivy now to the new faction of American Made. So now it's the Creed brothers, Ivy now, and Chad Gable. So they have 4 individuals now. I thought that was a great way to introduce her and just showing her ruthlessness there. What were your thoughts on this match in that segment and how they introduced Ivy now to American Made?
To start off, Obafemi in the crowd was sick because, like you said, it built up hype for their match on a match on NXT, which was also a great match. Another fun match. We had a lot of fun matches this week. Um, and that goes to say a lot because we're getting into that gray area where the shows kind of start slowing down. Typically around this era is when fans start getting burnout, but the show has still been good. They've been producing these fun matches with some of these fun tag teams that they have coming up. So I was very entertained. And like I said, Obafemi showing up, just hyping up for the NXT to happen the next day. I think that was great promotion. Something you didn't mention that I do want to mention was the Chad Gable promo that he cut from, I think it was the Paris Olympics. I just hope the gentleman in the back took notes because that was a fucking masterclass in promo work for building up your current storyline. Chad proved why he's on top, why he's one of the top dogs being presented on TV. Not only is he a beast in the ring, but he can cut a promo on his vacay nonetheless, which some guys can't even speak this well on their scheduled air spot that they've been practicing for days. So bravo, Chad. I'm looking forward to seeing what you and American Made do in the tag division because it seems like you guys got a good shoulder or a good head on your shoulders. The High Boys really did show out though. They looked good in this match and they just made the match fun along with Otis and Tozawa because Otis and Tozawa, yeah, they're great wrestlers, but overall they're just fun people to watch. And Tozawa is one of those people that really found his place in the company following the Cruiserweight Classic debut, and he just seems happy. He knows what he wants to do within the company, and that's not necessarily going after big belts or starting these single feuds. He's perfectly content on having these fun matches and working on these fun skits that bring that little bit of agent style wrestling to the Western audience. And I think the Western audience really appreciates that from him. So seeing Tozawa in the ring is always fun. And then he goes and he does crazy shit like the top rope senton that he did at some point in this match. So this match overall, very fun. I enjoyed it. It was a solid match. Ivy now finally joining American Made or whatever American Made was supposed to be right before they turned into American Made. Because, like you said, we saw her kind of slowly creeping into a position with them. she's finally in. I think that's a perfect fit for her because I didn't know where she was going to be fitting. So all around, I think this was great, and hopefully we get a match between all these people at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get. Yeah, maybe we'll get Maxine Dupree back in the ring. We get a mixed tag match as well there. Um, they American Made does have the advantage when it comes to the numbers game now. Now that the Alpha Academy is just three of them, but maybe they'll introduce someone new at some point. But I thought this was probably the most fun match of the night for me personally. The crowd really enjoyed it. Texas loved this one. It sucked that Otis and Tozawa lost, but Otis hit his signature caterpillar move, which they lost their shit for. Overall, fun match. Thought that was a great way to introduce Ivy to her new faction, American Made. And then moving forward here, I want to talk about how disappointed I was to find out that Sonya Deville, Zoe Stark, and Shayna Baszler's team, they weren't going to go with the Studline name. Very disappointed to find that out. I was even more disappointed when I found out that their fucking name, their new faction name, was the Pure Fusion Collective. What the fuck does that even mean?
So bad.
Yeah, I was pissed about that. Listen, all jokes aside, they weren't gonna go with the stud line. But if they did go with the stud line, they would have sold so much money.
I would have bought a
So
shirt.
so much merch. Yeah, exactly. They would have sold so much merch, made so much money just off the name alone. Pure Fusion Collective, I think this is a whack name. Nothing exciting about it personally. PFC, AFC, I don't fucking know. But anyways, they had a match against Damage Control for the number one contenders match, while Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the reigning. And this is when again we found out that Dakota Kai had a torn meniscus, as announced by Michael Cole. But this match was a pretty solid match. Nothing too crazy happened here. Always love to see Io Sky get in the ring. I think she dominated this match to its entirety. She was killing Zoe Stark, killing Shayna Baszler. She was able to hit her double knee bullet train on Zoe Stark in the corner, which is just a nasty looking move there. And this is when she was taking the momentum out of the Pure Fusion collection / the stud line. But towards the end of this match, Io sent Zoe into the ring and hits her finisher. And just as she was going to win, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn got in the ring, and they made an example out of the other two tag teams that were having this match. So we're left without a number one contender for the tag team championships. How did you feel about Alba Dawn and Isla Fire interfering with this match and just the match in general?
I mean, the tag champs being out there ringside should have been the first, red flag that this was going to end in fuckery, especially because they weren't even sitting at the announce table. They were sitting like kind of in front and off to the side of it. They did pan over and they showed, I think it was Candice Michelle who was in attendance, WWE legend. So I thought I'd shout that out. It's always good to see legends come up and see the shows when it's in the place they reside in. Besides Shayna's knee miss, I would say that this was a good match. I would really love if Shayna and Zoe just dropped Sonya, but I know they won't. To be honest, they just need a third that contradicts them. But is still a solid wrestler, and I think that's kind of what they're missing right now. Because, I'm sorry, Sonya just ain't it. This ended, like you said, in disqualification, but I didn't mind because the ladies had already shown out, and this attack only makes the tag champs look strong, especially since this was gonna end in the obvious, three teams versus each other. So besides that, it was an okay match. I would say it wasn't anything special.
Yeah, I apologize. First of all, I would like to apologize. How could I forget about Candice Michelle? One of my first crushes as a young teen, a young child watching the WWE.
It's a
I
good
was
one.
very surprised to see. Yeah, phenomenal one. I was very surprised to see her in the crowd when they did show her, and I popped. I said, "Oh shit, that's Candice Michelle. I remember her." So I thought that was hilarious. They also showed Mark Henry and his son as well, who is also signed to an NIL WWE deal. So shout out, congratulations to Mark Henry and his son there. But no, they did a great job of showing everyone in the crowd. But I was pleasantly surprised when they did pan the camera to Candice Michelle. He looks as young as ever and as good as she did back in the early 2000s. But overall, I thought this was like an all right match. Io is phenomenal in the ring. Anytime she gets in the ring, she's gonna make sure that the crowd is enjoying her matches. I mean, she's always one of those rougher styled wrestlers, being that she is from Japan. So love Io. I think Zoe, like you said, Zoe and Shayna had a thing going for them, but they also weren't going. They weren't getting over with the fans when it was just them two. So I can appreciate that Sonya being the mouth of this team is where her strength lies. But when it comes to wrestling, I just don't need to see her in the ring. I think she's works fine as a manager. I think she would work great as just the manager for Zoe and Shayna Baszler. I thought that's where we were going when they introduced them working together. But now she's sort of seems like the leader and the number one wrestler of the group, not in terms of skill wise, but just because she is garnering all the attention there, not for being good. So we'll have to wait and see. But I would like Sonya to sort of take a step back there, especially if they're gonna go for the tag championships against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I don't want to see Sonya in the mix here. I would much rather see Zoe and Shayna Baszler because they could carry a match. Both of those women are
Yeah.
phenomenal in the ring, especially Zoe. Zoe Stark, over the
Mm-hmm.
last few weeks, over the last month, she's fucking killed it. And she has that reverse BTS finisher that's just nasty. I would love to see her carry the weight when it comes to this new faction and tag team.
I just think, like I said, I think they need someone that contradicts them, right? Now, hear me out. This is going to be a wild fucking pitch. But why not pair someone like a Tiffany Stratton with them? She's completely the opposite. She's good on the mic for what we know of. And she can just have these two, with all due respect, these two pit bulls behind her, and they could form this kind of like stable behind those three, you know? I just don't think Shayna's that person that's gonna like group them together and make them a thing. I think they need something that's not like them to finally give them that last push that they need.
I think that's a crazy idea. I would have to disagree there, but I could see where you're going with it. Someone just on the other side, just the complete other side of the room, who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
fit their overall look, their gimmick. I can understand where that's coming from. I just wouldn't pair Tiffany Stratton with them just because they have big plans for her. Tiffany's
Well,
already part of Naya's little team that they got going
just
to
consider
turn
that
on
as
her
like an
eventually.
example. Of course, yeah,
Um,
Tiffany has her things going on, but just as an example, someone like you said, someone that doesn't fit what they fit into,
yeah,
I feel, and that can be a mouthpiece for them more than anything.
I think I think a better person who very similar to Tiffany Stratton would be Chelsea Green. Look how she
Mm,
helped Piper Niven. No one really gave a fuck about Piper Niven until they kind of paired her with Chelsea Green.
that's so
And now
rude.
Piper Niven, no, I mean no disrespect. I've rocked with Piper Niven. I
I
think
like
she's dope.
Piper. I think she's dope.
Yeah, I think she's phenomenal. But like prior to her joining with Chelsea Green, no one really gave a fuck. She wasn't getting no pops, is what I'm saying.
Well,
Um,
before
but
she
then
got those pops with Tony Storm, that's the thing is that Tony left and
it was
kind of
like
left
4
her
years
like,
ago.
well, yeah, but I mean, like they were a tag team, just left her,
Yeah,
and like I said, like I mentioned last week, these tag teams when they break up, they kind of drown sometimes, and I think that's what we saw with Piper is that she kind of just drowned in the background for a bit.
exactly. No, my point exactly. But then you paired her with someone who was the complete opposite of her in Chelsea Green, and now they have that funny dynamic where
Hmm.
Chelsea's the mouth, Piper's the muscle. And we even saw Piper get that championship match against Bailey at that pay-per-view. It wasn't Backlash, I forget. It was Clash at the Castle. And she held her own during that match. I thought that was probably one of the better title defenses in Bailey's short reign, if not the best. I would have to go back and look at the opponent she faced, but I thought that was her best title defense, if I'm remembering correctly. So I think Piper Nevin can hold her own now. And Chelsea Green would fit this spot perfectly, way better than Sonya Deville, and she would have came up with a better fucking name than the Pure Fusion Collective. I promise you that. That shit is horrible.
It is bad.
You
It's
should have
bad.
just don't even give them a name. Just keep figuring the shit out. You don't have to force a name. But fuck, KFC. That shit sounds stupid. It sounds like a KFC order. Anyways, moving forward, we get a hilarious segment backstage between R-Truth and Miz. Miz is looking depressed, but R-Truth tells him to cheer up because he actually was able to get him a match against Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. This puts a smile on the Miz's face, and he's like, "Really, you did that just for me?" And then R-Truth hilariously points at the screen. He's like, "Yeah, look, dog." And that's when the Miz realizes that his match tonight was actually not against Braun Breaker, but against Bronson Reed. That's when Miz starts to lose his mind a little bit. Randy Orton hilariously steps into frame and gives Miz a motivational speech, reminding him how many championships he's won in the WWE, how he was the host of this year's SummerSlam, etc., etc. And then Randy just tells him that the Miz has this, and he's gonna go out there and he's gonna kill Bronson Reed, and then he hilariously walks away. And that leads us into our Randy Orton Gunther promo. I thought this was a phenomenal promo. I'll go over it now, but I really did enjoy this interaction between Randy and Gunther. I'm looking forward to their match that's only a few weeks away. But this promo here started with Randy Orton telling the Austin crowd that he's only a few weeks away from becoming a 16-time WWE World Champion. Gunther's music immediately hits, and that's when he walks out sporting a brand new suit, different from the one he wore last week. I can appreciate that, with the World Heavyweight Championship on his shoulder. It just looks right. I think Gunther as a champion just looks right. But before Gunther could get a word in, Randy tells the Texas crowd to take a moment, take a picture of this, because in a few weeks he's going to beat this guy and Monday Night Raw will be his new home. Gunther tells Randy he better look at him when he's talking, because this is a new era, the era of the ring general, and in his era there's no room for people who waste their potential. Randy then tells Gunther he must have forgotten who he's talking to. My name is Randy Orton. I'm the most unpredictable, most controversial, and I'm always going to do it my way. He also reminds everyone that he has 5 kids at home, a smoke show of a wife waiting for him back home, and tells Gunther he appreciates his opinion, but he thinks he's done pretty good for himself. That's when the Texas crowd starts to chant USA. It wouldn't be Texas if we didn't get that fucking chant. Gunther then responds by telling Randy, I don't think you're unpredictable. I think you're very predictable. Prediction number 1, I'm going to give you the beating of a lifetime in Berlin. Prediction number 2, because of that, you'll never be world champion again. Randy, let's be honest. When it really, really matters, you always screw it up. It just comes naturally to you because your grandfather was a screw up. Your father was a screw up. Randy then starts getting visibly upset and he drops the mic that he had in his hand and starts rubbing his head. Gunther continues and says, and you, Randy Orton, are the biggest screw up of them all. Randy then gets in Gunther's face, but that's when Drew McIntyre's music plays. He walks out with a microphone in his hand. Gunther then turns his back on Randy to address Drew, but that's when Randy Orton strikes as the Viper does and hits an RKO on Gunther. McIntyre then starts to take his shirt off and heads to the ring. But then we get a CM Punk surprise entrance. CM Punk pops and attacks McIntyre. McIntyre fights back, takes off the belt that he was wearing, and tries to whip Punk, but Punk stops him and gets the belt and starts whipping McIntyre's ass. He beat him with the belt like 7 times, and it wasn't on his ass. He beat him on his back. That shit looked bad. McIntyre retreated backstage, and CM Punk celebrated with the awesome crowd. How did you feel about this exchange between Randy Orton and Gunther? I do want to ask you, how do you feel about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk interjecting themselves in the promo, but not really, they didn't really talk to Randy or Gunther. They had nothing to do with them yet. We know that Drew is going to, at some point, eventually challenge Gunther. I think that's where we're heading with Drew McIntyre heading out to the ring. But just seeing CM Punk interfere there and having these 2 storylines interject with each other, how did you feel about that and how this both of these stories are progressing as we head into Bash at Berlin.
Like you mentioned, they're kind of intertwined in a sense. So I didn't have a problem with one feud interjecting with the other one in a sense, just being in the same vicinity, because this kind of just sped up the show for me in a sense. I got to know where both of these storylines are headed and where the path is forward. Past this, like you said, Drew my challenge for the belt, or it seems like that's what he's going for. So meshing these, I had no problem. This segment in general, Gunther's a fucking asshole, dude. He definitely cut a killer promo against Randy. I think Randy got his own piece in there too. I think both of these guys did a phenomenal show and promoing against each other. Like you said before Randy could react, Max music played, and in between all that commotion, Randy Orton finally got his RKO win. You know, going along with the motto "Never turn your back on a Viper." So this was just build up for both of these matches, and I think it was perfectly fine to mesh both of them together because, like I said, it just saves us time. We know where this was headed, and this just kind of assured us that we were right. So this segment in a whole was a good segment. I will go back previously to the backstage segment with Randy Orton and Awesome Truth because I do want to point out that they started referencing Big Bronson Reed as the guy who killed Seth Rollins. That shit is fucking hilarious, and I need more people to be referencing to Bronson Reed, not by his name, but the guy who killed Seth Rollins.
Yeah, no, that was hilarious. I did not bring that up, but that was a funny uh that was funny. Randy Orton was telling him like, "Oh, you're about to get in the ring with the guy who killed Seth Rollins." So no, that was funny. And yeah, Miz had to be worried at that point. But in terms of Gunther and Randy Orton, Gunther has done a phenomenal job of getting under people's skin. He plays the heel so fucking well, and I love it. I love it. It was calling Damian Priest street trash. It was making Chad Gable's daughter cry in front of him after beating his ass for the Intercontinental Champion at the time. And now it's Gunther calling fucking Randy Orton's family, everyone in his bloodline, screw ups. And you know, to have Randy's dad and his uncle were, or his grandfather, if I'm mistaken, were both in professional wrestlers in the WWE. He has a bloodline there. He has that history there, and to hit a nerve the way Gunther did was fantastic. He plays that heel so well, and I love that about him. And I'm just glad that he's continuing to shine now that he has that World Heavyweight Championship on his shoulder. And I think you had to allow Randy to get the RKO off now. I don't think he's gonna get it off at Bash in Berlin. I don't think he's gonna have a chance to hit that finisher on Gunther. I think Gunther's gonna win outright, and he's gonna, like he said, he's gonna send Randy home. I think that's gonna ultimately lead to what I know the fans have been yearning for, which is a Randy Orton turn on Cody Rhodes. I want you to listen to this idea here. You know, what if Gunther beats Randy, not in a convincing way, but he ultimately wins the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this drives Randy a little crazy because Randy is now making it kind of emphasis to let fans know that he's going for this 16-time championship. He wants the record. He wants to tie the record. He wants to beat Flair. He wants to beat Cena. And he has the opportunity to do so. Him losing this match against Gunther may drive him crazy. And that's when he'll go to Cody Rhodes. Hey, Cody, I know you gave KO a chance. Why don't you give me a chance? Even Kevin Owens last week on Friday Night SmackDown kind of hinted at it because when they were having the discussion, him, Nick Aldis, and Cody Rhodes, KO said, "I don't deserve this. A guy like Randy deserves this, right?" What if Gunther beats Randy? Randy then goes back to SmackDown, tells Cody, "Hey man, I want a chance at the championship." And then we see Randy sort of start losing his mind. And of course, we're not going to take the belt off of Cody yet, but that is the catalyst that turns Randy heel. What if he brings the punt kick back because he's so obsessed with winning the WWE Championship? I would love to see that side. Since we've gotten Randy, he's been more of a baby face. We haven't seen him tap into his heel tendencies, and he, in my opinion, is a way better heel than he is a baby face. I love Randy. I think he's fantastic, but I think he's at his best when he's an asshole, when he's arrogant, when he's coming for people's necks, just like when he did against John Cena back in their rivalry, kicking his father. I wouldn't say go as far as kicking Cody Rhodes' mother, but I would love to see that ruthlessness out of Randy Orton once again. How do you feel about that fantasy, that potential fantasy booking on my end?
Like you said, I don't think Gunther loses it at Bash at Berlin, so your story is plausible. It is plausible. I like it. I like it for one reason, because we also know that Kevin Owens is probably on his way to turning on Cody as well. So if we had both of them go heel, and necessarily they don't win their, a title anytime soon, you can really, I mean, you've already stuck them together for a while. You can stick them together as a heel faction. I think that would be kind of interesting to see. I'm not going to lie. So, as for Bash of Berlin, like you said, I don't think Gunther loses it, but the possibility of maybe seeing a heel KO, heel RKO collaboration in the future, at least maybe just go up against each other post, breaking up with Cody. I think that presents itself as a interesting situation.
I'm just looking forward to see how this story will progress with Randy Orton. I think we are gonna get the Viper back at some point, and I'm looking forward to see when that will happen. How we will ultimately get to our Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Many people are speculating that's going to be one of the main events for WrestleMania 41, and it very well could be. It does have that story behind it, the legacy behind it. No pun intended again. Moving forward, we have another fun match that I think you're gonna love to talk about, which is The Miz versus Bronson Reed. But before the match starts, we get Kathy Kelly. We get a backstage interview with Kathy Kelly and CM Punk. Kathy Kelly asked CM Punk, why did he lie about telling WWE that he wasn't going to be in town this week because he had travel issues. CM Punk told Kathy, well, he lied about having travel issues because he wanted to catch Drew by surprise. He also told her that he's going to keep beating on Drew until he keeps his wife and his dog's name out of his mouth. Punk also told Kathy, I think I just found a way to make everyone happy while holding the belt that he beat McIntyre. That's when I thought, what came to my head immediately, maybe because I was thinking of his time at AEW, was a dog collar match. But we probably won't get that. But people are speculating that we'll get a strap match. How do you feel about a potential strap match at Bash in Berlin to make this the second match of a potential trilogy?
Man, you're a real fan if you're remembering a shot caller fucking match, because I don't remember that shit. I when I saw the strap, I thought a strap match. I thought your classic, Texas strap match or whatever. So I don't know if I need to see that, but it'll be interesting to see how that, I guess, takes place in this kind of new era of Raw that we're going into. Are they going to go over the top? Is it just going to be just right? Or are they just going to go out and give a weak showing of this match the way that, I don't know, a la a Vince would have put? Because, Vince would have ruined this match completely. So it's interesting that we might get a strap match. I hope we make that clear in the next couple of days, because that'd be awesome. So we get some hype built around the match. But yeah, I think what I took away most from this interview, not to negate what Punk was doing and all him, it's all important, but I loved seeing Gunther just smack a roll of water bottles in the back because he had just gotten RKO'd. That was my focus during this thing. I just found that extremely hilarious.
Definitely. I thought Gunther, prior to the interview actually starting, we saw Gunther throw stuff in the backstage, and you could see he was visibly upset, like we touched upon before. We could see these feuds intertwining with each other. Maybe we get a tag match out of these. Well, we'll have to wait. And in terms of a strap match between uh, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, that's definitely a possibility and something I'll be looking forward to. I had just remembered the dog collar match that he had with MJF in AEW, and I thought that was probably one of the better AEW matches when that did occur. And CM Punk always knows how to put on a great match, as well as Drew McIntyre. So you get that at Bash in Berlin, the crowd will definitely get their money's worth, and will hopefully have CM Punk go over there, causing us to get a third match at Bad Blood, a potential Hell in a Cell. Who knows? But moving forward past the interview, we do get Bronson Reed and The Miz. And as soon as the match started, Big Bronson Reed just started to dominate immediately, throwing The Miz around, hitting him with side slams, clotheslines, and just keeping the pressure on Miz. We went to a commercial break, and when we returned, The Miz had turned the tables on Bronson, even hitting him with a spinning DDT, but Bronson had stopped the run after a while, hitting The Miz with a Death Valley driver. Then he climbed up to the top of the rope, hit The Miz with his famous tsunami, and won the match. After the bell rung, he climbed to the top rope again to hit a second tsunami on Miz, but R-Truth rolled him out of the way. Bronson then turned his attention to R-Truth and hit him with 3 tsunamis until the officials came to the ring, but that didn't stop him. He hit another tsunami, making it 4. He wasn't done then. He climbed to the rope again and hit another one, making it 5. And I thought he was done, but he wasn't. He went back up, and that's when Adam Pearce got in the ring and told Bronson Reed to get down. Bronson then walks on the apron to the other ring post and hits R-Truth with another tsunami. Now I think we're at 6. I might have lost count at the of how many tsunamis we got hit. R-Truth got hit with. And then he finally starts to head out of the ring, walk up the ramp. But as Reed continues to walk up the ramp, Austin, Texas started to chant one more time. Those motherfuckers are evil. Bronson ran back and hit another tsunami on R-Truth. At this point, I think it was 7 or 8, and we just saw another murder on live television. Last week it was Seth Rollins. This week it was R-Truth. Who is it going to be next week? This man is on a rampage, and I'm loving it. I think he's doing great work here. He's building a new star. They're building a new star in Bronson Reed. He's going to be a strong foe for whoever is deserving of him. Will it be Braun Breaker? Will it be Gunther after he's done with Randy Orton? We'll have to wait and see. How did you feel about this match here and about witnessing another murder on live television?
How many more times is he gonna get away with this, bro? Like, honestly, like, this is the second time. Are we getting another one next week? Even with all the pep talk in the world from Randy and Miz, I mean, he was just never gonna get the job done, you know. I thought this match was gonna be a squash, but to be honest, Miz looked good out there for his age and for not being as active as he should be in the company. He went out there and he gave it his all, even though it was to no avail, but he gave it his all because at the end of the day, Bronson Reed claimed his second victim. But to our surprise, it was not Miz. Like you said, it was R-Truth, and Truth just got completely destroyed. Like you said, I think Miz took 1 and R-Truth took, we lost count. I can't even tell you how many he took. But my question to this is, with the noble sacrifice of R-Truth taking these instead of Miz, do you think this changes Miz's mind on your prediction from last week that they were going to break up?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because
okay. All right.
The Miz wouldn't have been put in this position. R-Truth wouldn't have been put in this position if it wasn't for R-Truth's stupidity. He thought he got him a match against Braun Breaker. He didn't read the name to its entirety. He got him a match against Bronson Reed, a murderer, a double murderer. Now,
was it going to be any different if it was Breaker though? It definitely wasn't.
He wouldn't have got tsunamied 8 fucking times. He might have gotten speared twice. But being tsunamied by a 400-pound man, I would take getting the spear over getting that shit. That was live murder again on television. So I think the Miz, is gonna feel a little bad for his boy. At the end of the day, he did save him. I would say R-Truth did save him.
He saved him.
The Miz. But I still see the Miz, getting frustrated at R-Truth putting them in these shitty situations.
Okay.
Maybe this buys R-Truth a little bit more time. Maybe he gets another month as the Awesome Truth. But I think at some point Miz is gonna break and he's gonna turn on R-Truth again, like he did many, many years ago. But we'll have to wait for at least 6 to 8 months because R-Truth got some broken ribs. Some, something must have broken that body because the way he was hitting those tsunamis was crazy. And I would say Austin, the city of Austin, Texas, needs to apologize to R-Truth. They better had given him the most premium hospital services when he got there. Because my God, how did you see a man get hit with 7 tsunamis and then and one more time? You guys are sick. That's some sick shit. Where I want to know where y'all were at. The people who were in that fucking stadium, I want to know where you guys were at on January 6th. I want to know the way y'all were acting. But moving forward.
My miss.
Moving forward.
That was a good one.
We get our main event. We get our main event here of Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship in a 2 out of 3 pinfalls match. I was very excited, looking forward to this match here. But before the match started, we get a Uso meeting Sami backstage, giving him a little pep talk, telling Sami that after he wins the Intercontinental belt, they're going to go on and they're going to win the tag belts from the Judgment Day. And then they did their little bloodline handshake, which I always pop for. We're getting these hints, man. We're getting these hints. I'm looking forward to the day the OG bloodline back alongside our tribal chief. But then the camera cuts to Braun Breaker, who is walking out and he's cutting a promo. As he's walking out, tells the camera, "Hey, football guy Pat McAfee, you got any dogs barking in Austin?" And then you can hear the crowd start barking for Braun Breaker. I thought that was sick as fuck.
I fucking love this. I love this.
I would say that was sick as fuck. Braun, whoever told you, if you didn't come up with it, if someone else came up with it for you, you better fucking hug them. You better take them to breakfast, lunch, and dinner because that was sick.
That shit was cold. Got the crowd hype.
It was cold. I did love that. I did love that little extra added oomph to his entrance. He did.
I was barking. Great. I know. That got me barking.
Yeah, that shit was hype. That shit was hype. But he walks out, and it was hilarious because the crowd barked. Then his music popped, but then they started booing him because they love Sami. But he still got the pop. You know, I just thought that shit was hilarious. But the match started with Braun Breaker driving Sami into the corner. Sami was able to fight back. Sami then was able to jump over Braun Breaker while he was running the ropes, and he was able to send Breaker to the outside of the ring. We then go to a commercial break. We return with Braun Breaker punching Sami while talking shit to him. Sami kicks Breaker and runs the ropes. Sami tries to jump over Braun again, but Braun was ready and catches him in midair and hits him with a slam onto the mat. That's when Braun starts to take control of the match, hitting Sami with a suplex. It's a running clothesline and goes for a third running clothesline into the corner. But Sami follows him and connects with a haluva kick, pinning Braun and got the first pinfall in probably the first 4 minutes of the match. I was a little concerned when I saw Sami get the first pinfall. I said, "Hold up now, player. What the fuck is about to happen?" I was a little concerned for our boy. I didn't we'll talk about it a little bit when we're finish this recap, but I didn't appreciate Braun taking the first pinfall. But anyways, Sami then takes Breaker to the outside and tries to hit a moonsault from the barricade. This is probably the nastiest spot of the night. Try to hit a moonsault from the barricade, but Braun again catches it. And then Fireman carries him on his shoulder and goes on a full sprint with Sami on his shoulder. And then he tosses Sami into the timekeeper area, throwing him into a chair head first. This spot was so bad that even Michael Cole called it and said Sami is dead. Then we go to commercial break. We come back from commercial break and find Sami sitting on the top rope. Braun hits the Breakensteiner and goes for the pin, but Sami kicks out. Braun then hits a gorilla press power slam followed by a spear, but he doesn't pin Sami. He runs the ropes again and he hits a second spear, and that's when he gets his first pinfall. Now they're tied 1-1. Braun then sends Sami to the outside of the ring, places him on top of the commentary table, Braun heads back to the ring and jumps from the apron onto Sami Zayn, hitting him with a flying clothesline. That was another nasty spot. Braun is just a fucking monster. Moving forward, the referee starts to count Sami Zayn out while he's recovering. So Braun turns his back, but the official counted to 9. That's when Sami, of course, miraculously jumped into the ring to break the count. Braun then set up Sami on the top of the turnbuckle again, goes for a suplex from the top rope, but Sami cowers into a sunset flip powerbomb and goes for the pin, but Breaker kicks out. Breaker was able to recover, goes for another spear, but Sami jumps over and goes for a roll up. But then Breaker kicked out. Breaker then runs to the ropes and goes for another spear, but Sami was able to reverse with a haluva kick, goes for the pin, but Breaker was not dying. He kicked out again. Sami then headed to the top of the rope to hit, I believe it was going to be a frog splash of some sort. But that's when Breaker recovered. Sami was still able to jump from the top rope, but Braun connected with a spear in midair. And that is what ultimately won him the match. From the trilogy we got from Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker, I thought this was easily the best match from the trilogy. From the match we got at Money in the Bank, from the match that we got at SummerSlam. They gave these guys this time. They gave them about 20 minutes to just go out there and try to kill themselves. And they did just so. Braun was an absolute monster for the majority of this match. That fireman carry into the timekeeper's area was insane. That looked really bad. I thought Sami could have really gotten hurt there, but he didn't, luckily. And I really did enjoy this match. Braun is going to continue to show us how much of a powerhouse he is. He is going to continue to carry this championship well. But from the trilogy, this was my personal favorite. I want to know from the trilogy that they've had, which one was your favorite match? Where do you see Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn heading after this? Who do you think will be Braun's next opponent for the Intercontinental Championship? And where does Sami go from here?
Yeah, so we talked about it at the beginning. The entrance to this was amazing. I think Braun has the best use of the walkthrough gorilla so far. This was definitely my favorite use of it. I think we were on opposite sides of the fence during this match because when Sami took the first fall, I found that is great because I kind of knew, okay, give him the first fall, let Breaker dominate the 2 second ones, and that's really kind of what we got. This was great for both of these guys. It was just an amazing showcase of talent in the company. And this was definitely older talent putting over new talent in a respectful manner because you don't always have to be retiring to put over younger talent. Sometimes you just want to pass the torch over and let the new talent shine. And I think Sami did that here, of course, opening him up for future, Jay and Bloodline interactions. But overall, I would say, like, I'm with you. I think this was the best showing of them in the trilogy. I think the Money in the Bank was the worst one. I feel like that match kind of sucked in general. I don't know if it's just the ending to that one that's swaying me, but I didn't enjoy that much as other people. I would say the one in the middle was okay, but this one was definitely these two just going head out and showing everything that they had against each other to finally declare winner. And I think Braun's a perfect winner. Where this leads them to, I don't know. I haven't really looked at the landscape for IC people. Because IC people, and at least in my opinion, there's a certain look, there's a certain kind of character you want carrying that belt, and I don't really have the list of wrestlers in front of me to be like, okay, maybe this person, maybe that person, but it'll be interesting to see who they pick for him because inevitably it'll be their decision, not ours. Where Sami goes, I think this opens him up for the bloodline stuff. I think him and Jay get together, they have a couple matches as a tag team, and we see where it goes from there on that aspect.
For sure. I would say that I think this was the best match from the trilogy. The SummerSlam one was the second best, and then Money in the Bank was the worst out of the three. In terms of potential opponents for Braun Breaker, I think the reason why they're having Bronson Reed commit murder on live television is to give him a chance at the Intercontinental Championship and to establish Breaker as a very extremely dominant Intercontinental Champion. So I think I would hope that's the next feud. For Braun Breaker, have Bronson come out when Braun cuts a promo next week. Fucking tsunami him 5 or 6 times. I would love to see that. And commit, then become a 3-time murderer. Then he'd have the trifecta. But that would be sick. In terms of Sammy and Jey Uso, they already told Sammy that they have a title opportunity for the tag championships. So we're gonna get that sooner rather than later. Not sure if that's gonna be taking place at Bash in Berlin. It just might, but we haven't gotten that announcement yet. If it does, I would be interested to see how Solo's bloodline plays a role in potential interfering in that match, costing the title. Or maybe that's when we get the official return of a Jimmy Uso. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of the current card for Bash in Berlin as announced, we have Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Undisputed Championship. We have Gunther versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. And we have Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio in a mixed tag match. Those are the 3 official matches that we have on the card. And now with CM Punk hitting at a strap match, I believe we're going to get CM Punk and Drew McIntyre in that strap match at Bash in Berlin. How do you feel about that card so far as I laid it out for you?
I don't know. On card, it looks like a good pay-per-view, but I don't know if I'm too like. I think we're still a little bit away. We're like what, maybe like a week and a half away. I feel like now is the time that WWE needs to start hyping me up for these matches. I feel like this week was the start of that, and I think the next couple weeks will, leading into the going home shows, will bring us to that full thing. But right now, I would say the match looks the match card looks good, but I'm not necessarily excited for it. I don't know if that's like bad to say, but it just kind of just seems like your basic post big pay-per-view match card.
Interesting. I feel the opposite of how you feel. I'm looking at this
Okay.
with a lot of excitement. I think there's a big story between Randy Orton and Gunther. Gunther's first official title defense for the World Heavyweight Champion. Randy Orton, a potential 16-time WWE Championship on the line there, champion on the line there. That's very interesting, at least for me. Just with the story and the psychology that's there between those two. Of course, I have Gunther winning. Then between Cody and Kevin Owens, I think this one is the one that is probably the least interesting so far. We have yet to see the build up with this just being announced last Friday. I would like to see how this continues to build as we head into Bash in Berlin. And then the mixed tag match should be a fun one. I think this will be a match where we get a lot of pops for the crowd. Maybe we get Rhea Ripley finally hitting that riptide on Dominic Mysterio, finally getting her hands on him after he turned on her, cheating on her, leaving her high and dry. But no, I'm looking forward to this match. And if they add that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre match, it's looking like a great card on my end. This is probably looking like one of the better cards of the international pay-per-views that we've had so far.
Okay.
In its totality. That's just how I feel. But we'll have to wait and see what other matches get added. And maybe I hope we get another. We're already getting a mixed tag match. What I was looking forward to in this pay-per-view was a tag team championship match. Now with that, we already have a tag match. I'm not sure if we're going to get another one. I still hope we do because we haven't seen those titles be defended as much as I would like to. And we've only really seen them defended on their weekly television. So would still love to see them include a potential tag team match there. So maybe we do get Sammy and Jay versus the Judgment Day at Berlin.
I do have a question for you because I'm not like completely sure about this. Are we still splitting up pay-per-views by brand?
No,
No,
we're not doing
okay.
that.
So then we still need to announce matches for the SmackDown side. Because right now it's just Raw heavy, right? What do we have on the SmackDown side right now?
It's Cody and Kevin Owens.
That's it? So we have a heavy Raw side. Now we kind of have to announce some of those more SmackDown matches. So maybe we'll get more announcements on that side. I don't know if we'll get a tag match on that side, but like We need to more matches on that side, just so it could be an even playing field. You never want one show to be bigger than the other on these matches, especially since we're not splitting them up anymore.
Definitely. No, that's a great point, and we now have LA Knight as the United States champion, so maybe we include him on the card.
Oh,
We'll
actually,
have to
that
wait and
is
see.
that is one of the matches. The number one contender, what is it, this Friday, will be
Yes.
facing him, or was it last Friday?
No, there's
Number
it
one
was last
contender.
Friday. So
It's
Santos
Santos
Escobar
will
won that
be,
match.
yeah, so he'll be the one facing Abasha Berlin, because I remember
Okay.
clearly seeing that logo on there for that, but I'll have to double check. But I'm pretty sure that was the number one contenders for the Basha Berlin match.
You might be right there. That would work. I would be elated to see the United States Championship be defended on another pay-per-view. Back-to-back pay-per-views for the United States Championship. I think that deserves a round of applause if it does happen. But no, you wanted to talk about this week's NXT. A lot of interesting segments, a few fun matches that I got to enjoy there. But I'll let you take control of NXT.
Before we move on to NXT, overall thoughts on Raw. What do you give it overall? I think this week in Raw was decent. I would say overall this was a good show, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it 4 tsunamis out of 5.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent show as well. A lot of repeat from last week, I thought. And I think there's a little lull period heading into a new pay-per-view a few weeks away. Give it a 3.5, 4 out of 5 tsunamis. I enjoyed it though. I thought it was a solid week of Monday Night Raw. And they've been consistent. They have been consistent and the storylines continue to progress. So no complaints on my end there. And shout out to Big Bronson Reed. Love seeing you commit murder on live television. Austin, Austin, Texas. You need to send some flowers, some chocolate, some candy to our Truth's address for what you guys did to him. And just, yeah, disappointed in you, Austin, but phenomenal showing by Bronson Reed again. And a great main event between Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, let's get into NXT. Uh, we're not gonna spend too much time on NXT. I feel like exactly like Raw, it's just a lot of the same, kind of just building up future storylines. So we'll just kind of breeze past this. You'll be shocked to hear that Ethan Page actually impressed me this week. Um, exactly like Braun Breaker, he took the mic and he came. He actually had a custom mic sleeve. He came out through Gorilla with a promo at the beginning, and I thought it was great. Please, Ethan, more of this. This was fucking clean. It makes you look like this great heel champion. So more of this. I just want more good promos like this down in NXT. What did you think of Ethan Page's promo heading towards the ring?
I thought his promo was solid. I enjoyed his promo between Joe Hendry and everyone who interrupted him.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like Joe Hendry overshadowed his promo a little bit. I would say there's something if there hasn't been implemented a fucking a wardrobe designer or someone in charge of this shit at NXT, please fucking do so, because Ethan Page came out with a fucking gray blazer, a white collar shirt, and maroon pants that were as tight can be. I wasn't fucking with the fit. That's just me. That took away from the promo for me. It distracted me. I was like, yo, what the fuck is he wearing? Anyways, in terms of the promo, I thought he did okay. It was an okay segment from Ethan Page. I thought last week's match impressed me more than this week's promo.
Okay.
But I do appreciate that they're putting a lot more emphasis on his character and giving him a lot more respect. Like you said, giving him a personal mic sleeve, and just having him start the show off as the NXT champion.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he came to the ring and he cut another, what I would say, another great promo. Um, but then the fans believed and Joe appeared, and it seems like he wants a chance at the belt, which seems interesting to me because he's mentioned before, if he wins this belt, he will be taking it to TNA, and who knows where else TNA allows him to go with it. So it'll be interesting if we even go as far as giving Joe a belt this quick to see him actually carrying it here and there. Would you want to see him taking it to TNA or maybe some other promotions outside?
It would be sick to see him take the NXT belt to TNA. I think that would be a pretty cool sight to see. I mean, we did see Jordiana Grace at the Royal Rumble walk in with the TNA Women's Championship, and everyone popped for that. So it could be very similar, but vice versa, taking the WWE belt over to TNA. Another wardrobe comment here. This is the third time I've seen Joe Hendry wear the same blue silk shirt, same white pants, and the same blue Jordan ones. Brother, I listen. I don't know your contract situation, but I'm sure you make enough money to buy another colored silk shirt. Please do so. I think it would add a little bit more flair. But in terms of Joe Hendry's promo, I thought it was solid. I enjoyed it more than Ethan Page. He knows how to play the crowd well. The crowd fucking loves him. They ended up singing his song at the end of the segment when Joe said, "I'm gonna take that belt to TNA, then I'm gonna take it to London, Paris, and Tokyo," and everyone started singing. And then we get another pop from Wes Lee, who actually came out and kicked Joe straight in the jaw with a nasty kick. That was a great heel heat for Wes Lee there, because Joe Hendry is fucking beloved at this moment in time. But I would be interested to see him carry that belt elsewhere. But let's not forget, Joe Hendry was in a 6-man championship, in a 6-man TNA heavyweight championship match, not more than about 3 weeks ago. They didn't have him carry the belt there. He didn't go over. One could ask, why is that? Is he not worthy of a championship belt yet? If TNA didn't feel like he was worthy of it, then why would the other promotion feel that way? One that he's not technically signed to.
I'm convinced that maybe not at the 6-man match, but if this NXT, I guess, dream of his wasn't being presented to him, I feel like TNA would have pushed him as that guy, because NXT poached him right at the exact time that he was starting to go viral, for to say. So I think if you would have left that kind of sit in TNA, I feel like he would have gone over. I feel like they would have put the belt on him. I just think NXT saw the possibility and started kind of poking at him, hey, come over here. So I think that's where that ends. As in respective of why he didn't carry the TNA championship. I don't think it's not that he's not a worthy person, but I just think when his fame started starting to rise, he got led somewhere else, and that opportunity didn't present itself to him, if that makes sense.
No, that's a great point, and I love the way you thought about that and analyzed that. You might totally be onto something there, and it makes a ton of sense, because ever since he did lose that match at the TNA anniversary, he's been solely focused on NXT and showing off what he can do in front of that crowd. So you might be onto something. We'll definitely have to wait and see if Ethan Page is going to decide to defend that belt against Joe Hendry.
And like you said, Wesley came in here like a man with the mission. He's just laying people out like his name is Pete Dunne. And this ultimately led later down in the show that we're going to be getting a number one contenders triple match between Wes, Joe Hendry, and Pete Dunne, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Yep. We're going to get that there. I think that came after the Wesley cut a promo explaining to the crowd why he turned on the Rascals last week, and let them know that ever since they had left and they had been fired from the WWE and left TNA, and he saw them reunite, he was heartbroken. But he knows now that when he's done beating on Zach and the Rascals, he is going to send them back to TNA, and he's going to be going after the NXT championship. And that is when Pete Dunne's music played, and he walked out. He had a mic in his hand and told Wesley that he was impressed because he's finally see someone around here has started to figure it out, not to get carried away, because last week Pete Dunne had beat Trick Williams, and now his eyes are on the NXT championship. And that's when Joe Hendry's music played, and he got his revenge on Wesley, attacking him from behind. So we ended that segment with Pete Dunne Wesley and Joe Hendry battling it out in the middle of the ring, having to be separated by the referees, which is very interesting. I think Pete Dunne versus Wesley versus Joe Hendry in a number one contenders match is going to be a fun one. I don't know, when you're looking at it on paper, who's the best wrestler of the three on paper?
Pete Dunne, hands down.
100%. And then I would take Wesley over Joe Hendry personally in terms of in-ring wrestling ability. Would you disagree?
I would disagree. I would take Joe, but that's just because I feel like Joe has a lot of unlocked potential that the PC might unlock, or that this tutelage through WWE might unlock. So I think just banking on the fact that there might be something there, I think I'd take Joe over Wes.
Who are you taking in this number one contenders
this match?
If you had to bet your your PlayStation on this match here, on a winner, on a victor, who are you betting it on?
I think you give it to Joe because the bigger match would be Ethan versus Joe, but I don't think Joe takes it off of Ethan. I think Pete Dunne's wrapped up in too many other storylines for him to actually win this one. I think he just brings a bigger name to this match. Because if you were to give me just Wesley versus Joe, I don't think I'd be as interested as a Wesley, Joe, and Dunne.
I agree. That's a great point. I agree. We might Joe Hendry might walk away being the number one contender following this triple threat match, and we'll get the Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry at No Mercy for the NXT champion.
Since we're talking about Pete Dunne, I do want to mention real quick that Trick cut a promo on him. I'm going to call it the Figure It Out promo. And it seemed like he wanted the rematch, but it doesn't seem like Pete Dunne is very interested in that. And with this match now being made, I don't know if we're going to go back to Dunne versus Trick. Do you think we'll eventually go back to that?
I think Trick is going to get his revenge on Pete Dunne eventually. I think what will happen if the number one contenders match is next week, I think Trick Williams finds himself interfering, and because it is a triple threat match, it is a no disqualification match. Trick might cost Pete Dunne his title opportunity there, and will result in a match at No Mercy between Trick Williams and Pete Dunne.
Speaking of opportunities, we finally got all the ladies. Well, I guess they announced all the ladies for the No Mercy Gauntlet Eliminator match. And there's a lot of ladies in here that we've been hot on for the past couple weeks. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on who you think is going to win this one.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the ladies that were selected for the Gauntlet Eliminator match were Jada Parker, Carmen Petrovich, Gwen Sinclair, Kendall Gray, Sol Ruka, and Adriana Rizzo. This is tough. This one is actually really tough. I don't know how to call it yet. I would have to put my money on either Sol Ruka or Carmen Petrovich. I think it'll be one of those two women. Yeah, I feel like Jada Parker's still too green for a women's championship title opportunity. And I feel that same way about the other 4 women in the match, or 3 women in the match, Ren Sinclair, Kendall Gray, and Adriana Rizzo. I think Carmen Petrovich and Sol Ruka have been on TV a lot longer. They've had a few more matches than the other women have, from what I've seen. I think Sol Ruka is phenomenal in the ring. And I think Carmen Petrovich is also another one that's a sleeper. So I'd have to pick between those two. If you're making me pick one, I'd have to pick Carmen Petrovich.
Damn. Okay.
I think that's a little crazy. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll come back to that prediction there. Who do you think is going to be facing Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship belt out of this gauntlet match?
So it saddens me to say this, but I think you're right. I think Jada Parker is just a little too green still, even though I would love to see her as champion one day, and I'm sure we will. I think it's not her time yet. And this one, I'll agree with you with one. I also had Sol Ruka. I think Sol Ruka's had an amazing showing over the past couple months, and I think she might be ready for this. Her mic skills, just like anybody down in NXT, aren't the best, but that's always something you can work on. But my second pick would have been Ren Sinclair, and I actually think Ren Sinclair will win this just because, like we saw in this episode of NXT, we finally put some, in a sense, some gold on No Quarter, and I feel like she can establish her relationships with No Quarter even more if she were to say come close to winning that belt or even winning that belt. So my pick for the number one contender will be Ren Sinclair.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see. I got Carmen Petrovic.
Okay,
I'll give you Ren Sinclair.
I didn't expect that
We'll
from
come
you.
back to this next week. Yeah, I mean, last week when you asked me if I knew Ethan Page's finisher, you didn't expect me to know that either. So we'll have to come back and wait. We'll have to come back to see who wins that eliminator next week.
Since we're talking about them, we might as well get into the Heritage match because this was a good one. I enjoyed this one a lot. What were your thoughts on this match? Because from what I saw between these two guys, we saw a lot of great technical mat wrestling, and it's something that I said before that I wanted to see more of from Dempsey because we did see it at the Bloodsport show. So let me get your thoughts on this match.
Yeah, this was my first time actually seeing Charlie Dempsey in the ring, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. He wrestles like his father, and Tony D'Angelo had a fantastic match. This is my first time also seeing that the way the match was broken down into 5 rounds. Was it 5-round match? Each match being 3 minutes. That was interesting to me. The first round that they had between each other was very technical, as you said. A lot of grappling, a lot of submission holds. That one ended in a draw. No one won the first round. And then I believe the way the second round ended was with a roll up from a corkscrew driver from Tony D. He won that second round there. Charlie and Tony had lost the third. No one won the third round. Charlie had won the fourth round. So then at that point, it was 1-1. He won with a roll up pin following throwing Tony D'Angelo headfirst into a turnbuckle. And the fifth round was won because Vincent Sinclair, like you said, had knocked off Tony D'Angelo from the top rope, and that's when Charlie Dempsey hit his finisher on Tony and won the Heritage Cup Championship. Like you said, this was a really great match in terms of technical wrestling. I can't remember the last time I've seen as much grappling and submission holds in a match and yesterday. So watching this was very interesting to me. I thought Tony D'Angelo, I've seen Tony D'Angelo wrestle before. He's fucking great. I love him. He's gonna get a call up probably at the next WWE draft 1,000%. No, I thought this was a great showing for both of these guys, and have Charlie Dempsey win because of Ren Sinclair. You might be onto something. Maybe she is the one that is going to win that eliminator match and bring gold to the No Quarter Catch crew there. But phenomenal match from both of these individuals.
I mean, if we really want to go into fantasy booking, this can also lead into a possible feud between them and Chase U because, I mean, the numbers are there for both teams and they just won gold too. So seeing some of the guys from No Quarter go chase the tag belt as well would bring everybody in the family kind of to have gold. So that might be a possible booking in the future, just dream booking at this point. But yeah, the Don, he continues to impress me. I love seeing him on TV in general. He's hilarious on the mic, and he keeps showing us that he's just like really, even if his, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner, if his look doesn't scream professional wrestler, he definitely shows it in the ring. Like this man can do everything from ground to go all the way to the top rope. So I really enjoy watching him. Like you said, the first round went to the Don in the second round. But I still had faith Dempsey was going to win. I kind of thought Dempsey was going to win because they have been going at this for a bit and Dempsey hadn't been able to win the cutback. So I didn't see the Don going over. Inevitably, he did win. And like I said, it was due to Ren's help. So I see this continuing more in the back. I think we might get a couple more matches between No Quarter and the family to wrap up that storyline. But both of these guys showed out extremely well this week.
Definitely. And I had mentioned that Charlie Dempsey wrestled like his father. For those of you who don't know, William Regal is Charlie Dempsey's, of course. Wanted to clarify that. But I wanted to ask you, what about Tony D'Angelo's like look doesn't scream professional wrestler to you? Because when I see him, I thought like I see a wrestler personally.
Okay.
Is it because he's shorter side or is it stocky build? Because he's pretty cut up, I would say. I think
So
he's great.
I think maybe it's just the attire he wears. I guess just like the sweats
Ah,
and the
yeah.
and the t-shirt. It kind of doesn't mold to his body the way other people's fits do. So it kind of makes him look, in a sense, a little bit out of shape. But you know he's in shape. You can see it. You can see his arms. He has a little bit of a punch gut, but who doesn't? I mean, Otis is great, and he's not the smallest guy on the roster. You know, so it's not like an insult, like to say that I
Yeah.
don't see him as a wrestler. But I think it's just I see his backstage persona and it carries so well. This is one of those personas that I actually think can carry over to main roster. So I would love to see him kind of change his in ring dress, I guess to say, to kind of resemble more of that because the sweats and the wife beater kind of don't resemble what his persona comes off to me as. It comes off to me as that side of like Jersey that they kind of play around with in the back, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and just wanted you to elaborate on that point there. I could understand where you're coming from. I'm sure they'll add a little bit more flair to his in ring attire as he continues to progress. But
And
you mentioned
uh huh,
Otis. Mentioned Otis.
I did.
How could we not speak about two meaty men slapping meat? Obafemi versus Otis for the North American Championship. What were your thoughts on this match?
I
Did
mean,
you
you
enjoy this one?
you mentioned meat slapping meat. Tony Khan must have been having a wet dream somewhere with this fucking match. These two guys are great. I've come to like Oba. You put me on Oba because I wasn't really on Oba. You put me on Oba. Oba's fucking great. Otis, I love Otis. I love seeing him that he can come down to NXT and not take it as kind of like an insult, maybe as some of like the other. I'm not sure, but some of the bigger stars might be like, "Why am I going down to NXT?" I love that Otis is just like, "Hell yeah, I'll go work a match with Oba down in NXT." Like I mentioned before, I think this is just preparing Oba for maybe a main roster debut. Maybe like you said, maybe on the next draft, him and the Don get pulled over. And I think both of them, honestly, I think both of them are just ready for this. So this match was good. It was a good showcasing of Oba against someone on the main roster to make him look even better for his inevitable call up.
100%. I thought this was the first time Oba has faced someone that has given him a problem in terms of size and strength. In his previous title defenses, he's faced the likes of like a Wes Lee, a Dragon Lee, if I'm not mistaken. So these are all smaller guys that he's faced that he clearly has. He can clearly overpower just because of his sheer size and strength. This dude is like 6'4", 6'5", fucking 280 pounds, just of all muscle. He's a former college football player, extremely young. He's a fucking beast. And I thought this was the first time that he faced someone who could challenge him when it came to strength and size. Otis is also a beast. His strength is hidden, I feel like, because he is on the bigger side of the spectrum there. But this was a fantastic match between the two gentlemen. Otis and Oba had a great match. Oba has the nasty chops, like very. It might be worse than Gunther's chops because he charges at you and throws like an open hand slap to your chest. And he did this to both Otis and Tozawa and Maxine were ringside for this as well. Oba hit a mean ass chop on Tozawa. I felt like his hand covered Tozawa's entire chest, and it was just nasty looking. So thought this was a very, very fun match. I love seeing Oba and Otis go at it here. Oba hit Otis with a power bomb from the top rope, and that was the move that won him the match. So if you haven't seen Oba Femi wrestle, you don't even got to see him wrestle. Check out his entrance. Check out his entrance. I think his entrance alone will get you hype and make you want to watch an Obafemi match. He's gonna be a fucking beast on the main roster when he does move up there. Like, I think this is a dude that they wanted someone like almost to be like, uh, but Oba is so much more athletic than a almost, and he's able to wrestle a lot better than someone who is so much taller than everyone else. So I'm excited to see how Oba moves forward, how he progresses in NXT. I don't know who's gonna take off the North American Championship belt from him, because there's absolutely no one on the roster that's believable enough to do so, just because he's so fucking, just because of his sheer size and strength. Maybe they call someone to do this shit, someone from the main roster, someone from TNA, because I couldn't fucking point at someone who could take this belt off of this man. He is a monster. I love seeing him on television. Big Obafemi guy over here. I'm a believer. I can't wait to see you on the main roster. Give me Bronson Reed versus Obafemi. Give me Braun Breaker versus Obafemi. Who else would be sick as fuck to watch
I mean,
against Obafemi?
you just said it yourself. You just mentioning Gunther and Oba in the same sentence got me excited. I was like, that's a match I want to see. Both of these guys are about the same size. Both of them hit hard as bricks. That's one I would want to see.
That would be very interesting whenever we get Oba up on the main roster. But in terms of, I just genuinely don't know how they're gonna get this belt off this man, because he carries it well, and he's gonna be carrying it for a while.
Now, would you be mad? Say we don't go the route of Joe winning the main belt. Would you be mad if Joe took the belt off of Oba?
I'd be furious. I'd be fucking furious.
Okay.
Oba Femi's not losing to no Joe fucking Hendry.
I'm just
I'll
trying
tell
to
you that
see.
much, right?
I'm just trying to see it as I'm trying to look at the roster, because we have seen the roster. I've seen the roster more these past couple weeks than I have ever of this new crop of NXT talent. I'm with you. I don't know if I have someone in mind that can take it off of him, but someone that's coming in with the hype of a Joe Hendry kind of doesn't need to have that backing in the ring, because he has that backing and popularity. So it wouldn't be a horrible decision to take it off of him, because honestly, if you're going to take it off of Obafemi, it has to mean something at this point. He's held it for so long. He's been so dominating. Who can take it? I don't see anyone in the roster that can right now.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be Joe fucking Hendry. I'll tell you that
Okay.
much.
All right. I offended you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna have to call Brock Lesnar back to
Take
take this fucking belt off of this man. But it's not gonna be Joe Hendry. I promise you that. It might be. It might be the only person that has a chance of me
The Chase You big
looking at
guy.
them. No, fucking Trick Williams. But I don't see him going back to the North American Championship. Yeah,
Well,
I don't see him taking a step back.
I wouldn't say a step back either. I don't want to like diminish the North American Championship, but like I understand what you're saying. Like I wouldn't want to push him to a title that I guess in the company has a significant a lower significance than the main title. But I see where you're coming from. He can be one. He can be one. I said before, I thought you were gonna say the tall guy from Chase U. He might be one just because of his size, but they just recently had a match and he couldn't get it done. So I don't know where that leaves us, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know where it leaves us, but I promise you it's not Joe Hendry.
All right, well, let's get to the main event of the show. This was a tag match for the tag championships. It was Axiom and Frazier versus Chase U. I enjoyed this match. This was my first time seeing these two from Chase U in a tag match, but they both did great. I love how one member wrestled in normal clothes and the other one just wore his regular ring gear. I thought that was Mr. Unique. That was unique. And Mr. Chase, I do appreciate your shoe game. I see you coming out there with the sneakers. That's always sick to see. We see it on the main roster with people like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. So I, as a sneakerhead, I appreciate that. Chase U seems to be on a tear right now. I'm excited to see what tags come after them in the future now that they have the tag belts, because they did end up winning the tag belts in this match. Will this drive the others? I had brought it up before. Will this drive the others to pursue gold, or will this drive a rift apart them finally?
No, I think it'll motivate them to pursue gold in the long run. I don't see it causing a rift. I think everyone was excited and elated for them to win the championship belts last night. It was, I think it came to a surprise to a lot of people. I actually didn't see Axiom and Nathan Frazier losing to Chase U. So to have them lose, have Ridge Holland and Mr. Chase win this match was intriguing to say the least. I don't think it'll cause a rift. I think it'll push them forward. And like you said, Mr. Chase was wearing the Jordan 1 Fearless UNC Chicago sneakers. I popped at that too. I said, "Oh shit, he got some cold ass shoes on." You usually don't see that on NXT, so shout out to him. I should have known better when he came out with those shoes. I should have known the motherfucker was gonna win the championship. So congratulations to them and to Ridge Holland. But I think it does. I don't think it causes a divide. I think it motivates other members to do better.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was like just like an earlier thought I had. I was like, because of the tension that was kind of set forth with I guess the main leader of Chase U not being picked for being in this match, I thought there might have been some tension brewing there. But like you said, it seems like everybody was genuinely happy for the big win at the end. So this was definitely a great match to end the night. Next week sounds like another banger for NXT. We have a bunch of matches. We have the number one contenders match and stuff like that. So it looks like NXT is kind of holding its own amongst the other big shows. So this week I will give this episode of NXT another 4 out of 5 Ethan Page microphone covers. What do you give it? What were your final thoughts on NXT this week?
Yeah, I thought NXT is holding its own against the two other main shows, Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. Always going to be the third show, of course, just being that it is out of the Performance Center. I would give it a 4 out of 5, very similar to you. And I'm looking forward to next week's Eliminator Gauntlet match for the NXT Women's Championship. Roxanne Perez is great in the ring. She's getting even better on the mic. I'm looking forward to see who she's going to defend her belt against at No Mercy. I think at No Mercy as well, we're going to finally get the appearance of Julia and Stephanie Vacour. So that should be interesting.
Ooh.
And then the number one contenders match for the NXT Championship between Joe Hendry, Wesley, and Pete Dunne is going to be fun to watch. Unfortunately, I'm not a believer. I'm going to say it. I thought I was a believer.
Okay.
I'm not a believer yet.
Okay.
But I think Joe's going to win that match. I'm looking forward to see how Wesley progresses. I'm sure we'll get the Rascals back next week, so maybe they come out and they try to attack Wesley, get their revenge for what he did to them and how he broke up their group. All in all, solid show from NXT. Glad I tuned in here, and I'm looking forward to how they continue to progress to NXT No Mercy, and as well as their debut on the CW, which is what they're focused on as well.
I like that you're not a believer, because that makes one believer and one non-believer, and we'll get to battle it out when he gets to, have matches in NXT. But yeah, I think this is a solid midweek wrap up for wrestling. I think NXT held its own against, like I said, against the bigger dogs. I think Raw, even though it is in a little bit of a let's slow down point, it's still not in a sense slowing down. The matches are still great. The build up for this pay-per-view is hyping you up. I hope it gets me hyped within the next couple shows. That typically tends to happen with me, unless something like huge has started brewing. I typically start getting hyped around the shows maybe like a week and a half out. So I'm hoping that these next couple shows leading up to the go home shows are great, so that I can get that hype up for Bash at Berlin. I'm not excited for waking up and watching this shit at fucking God knows what time in the morning, but we will eventually get that review out to you guys when that happens. But yeah, another solid week of wrestling.
Definitely. Are you not a fan of the early pay-per-views?
What do you mean?
Yeah, are you not a fan of the international pay-per-views being early for us, like the 10 a.m. spots that we've been getting because of them?
Is this one going to be at 10 a.m.? Because someone told me it was going to be like a lot earlier. Oh, at 10 a.m.? I feel like
it's going to be at 10 a.m.
I feel like a midday pay-per-view is fine, like if we're getting it, because that it allows the stars over there to get their proper rest and and for them to air the show at the time that it would normally, instead of trying to force these people into like these late shows when they could be tired and we can get more fuck ups. So I do appreciate that we get to watch them more of a when it's at their time, and our time it's like more during the day. I do appreciate that. It's the ones where it's like super early, kind of like the Riyadh shows and shit, where I'm like, man, fuck this. I'm not getting up for that. I'll watch it when I get up.
Interesting. I don't feel that way. I actually kind of love the early morning ones. Just because I feel like I get my whole Saturday after that.
Okay.
As a big fan, I like to plan my day around the pay-per-view. If I know there's a pay-per-view at 5 p.m., I'm like, and I'm on the West Coast, so it may be 7 p.m. for those on the East Coast. But being that we're both on the West Coast, we watch it at 4 or 5 p.m. So that like kind of takes away the day. You got to go get the snacks, got to get the food, got to get ready for the pay-per-view in and of itself. So having it early in the morning, I think is pretty fun. I'm looking forward to Bash in Berlin taking place at 10 a.m. on the 30th of August, if I'm not mistaken. All in all, though, solid week of wrestling thus far. We will bring you the weekend recap covering AEW, this week's AEW Dynamite, and this week's Friday Night SmackDown. And do not forget to tune in to Friday Night SmackDown because we have already been announced that your tribal chief, my tribal chief, our tribal chief will be making an appearance this Friday as well. We're looking forward to covering that for you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on Sunday. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow if you haven't already, and turn on the bell for notifications. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Catch you on Sunday.